You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. There are moments in life when everything feels hollow. Your job becomes a routine, your relationships lose meaning, and your reflection in the mirror becomes unfamiliar. You wake up not in pain, but in numbness, that dull emptiness that no achievement seems to fill. And worse, you can't even explain why you're unhappy. It just is. This is not depression in its clinical sense. It's deeper, a crisis of meaning, a moment when life no longer makes sense, even though nothing tragic has happened. For Viktor Frankl, this is the existential vacuum, the silent epidemic of modern times. He believed that man can endure any suffering if he understands why he suffers. But when life feels like a cycle without purpose, the soul begins to rot from the inside out. Marcus Aurelius, centuries earlier, also faced moments of despair. But he believed that clarity doesn't come from external changes. It comes from within. When the world loses its meaning, the Stoic turns inward to reclaim control. Two voices, two approaches. When your life no longer makes sense, who should you listen to? There are no explosions, no funerals, no screaming, just silence. That's what makes this kind of suffering so deceptive. It arrives quietly, like fog over a familiar landscape, until one day, nothing looks the same. You still go to work, respond to messages, make plans. But inside there's a numb ache, a whisper that says, "What's the point?" It's the kind of pain that modern society rarely talks about because it doesn't make headlines. But it eats away at people from within, the professionals, the students, the parents, the dreamers, all silently asking if what they're building even matters. Viktor Frankl named this condition the existential vacuum. For him, this wasn't a symptom of laziness or weakness. It was the inevitable result of a culture that lost connection with meaning. When tradition fades, religion is abandoned, and personal sacrifice is dismissed as outdated, people are left with a freedom that terrifies them. They can choose anything, but they no longer know why they should choose at all. Frankl believed that this vacuum doesn't destroy us by force. It hollows us out with indifference. The person may still smile, succeed, and function, but inside they are drifting without anchor or aim. Marcus Aurelius didn't use the language of vacuums or existentialism, but he knew the feeling. As emperor, surrounded by constant flattery, responsibility, and chaos, he often wrote about the emptiness of praise, the shortness of life, and the futility of pleasure. "Soon you will have forgotten all things," he wrote, "and all things will have forgotten you." His solution was not to seek new meaning, but to return to nature, to live in accordance with Logos, the rational order of the universe. Life to Marcus had meaning because it was life. That was enough. It didn't need a personal narrative, only presence, virtue, and clarity. And so, we meet our first divergence. Frankl believes meaning must be found, actively, personally, even painfully. Without it, the soul collapses into despair. Marcus believes meaning is already present. If only we could remove the noise and see clearly. One urges us to search, the other to strip away. But both start from the same place, a deep, quiet ache that tells us something is missing, even when everything appears normal. One of the cruelest ironies of the modern world is that we are freer than ever, and yet more lost. We can choose our careers, partners, lifestyles, and beliefs. But instead of liberation, many feel overwhelmed. When everything is possible, nothing feels essential. Frankl identified this as a dangerous turning point in human history. He saw that once survival is no longer our concern, the question shifts from "how do I live" to "why do I live?" And that second question is harder, much harder. Without a guiding purpose, freedom becomes not a gift but a burden. We begin to drift, numb, scroll, repeat. To Frankl, the antidote wasn't more pleasure or distraction. It was responsibility, not the kind society imposes, but the kind your soul demands. He wrote, "What man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal. Purpose is not about comfort. It's about carrying something larger than yourself, something that justifies your suffering." Frankl believed that meaning doesn't just arrive. It must be answered, chosen, shouldered. And in doing so, suffering is redeemed. Emptiness is filled not by pleasure, but by commitment to something worthy. Marcus Aurelius, though born into power, viewed freedom very differently. For him, real freedom wasn't found in choices or ambition, it was found in mastery over the self. He believed the modern obsession with finding your passion was misguided. You don't need more options. You need discipline, reason, and duty. If you perform your role with virtue, whether as a ruler, a father, or a soldier, you are free. He wrote, "No role is so well suited to philosophy as the one you happen to be in right now." The Stoic doesn't chase purpose. He lives it, moment by moment, regardless of how he feels. So while Frankl pushes us to seek out purpose with urgency, Marcus invites us to find it in what's already in front of us. Frankl challenges the void with vision. Marcus dissolves the void with clarity. One sees meaning as a mountain to climb, the other as a path beneath your feet you had simply failed to notice. Both urge us not to waste freedom, but they disagree on what that freedom truly asks of us. It's often not until something breaks that we start asking real questions. When the job is lost, when the marriage collapses, when illness knocks you off your feet, suddenly the distractions vanish and you're left with the terrifying silence of your own soul. That's when the question arises, what now? When life no longer fits your expectations, when control disappears, pain enters not just your body or mind, it enters your identity. And in that collapse, something sacred can happen, the opportunity to redefine everything. Frankl believed that this kind of pain wasn't just inevitable, it was necessary. He saw suffering as the place where all illusions are stripped away. In Auschwitz, stripped of everything, he discovered a truth. When a man has nothing left but his inner attitude, he finally meets himself. He wrote, "Suffering ceases to be, suffering at the moment it finds a meaning." For Frankl, the purpose is not always grand. Sometimes it's as simple as comforting another, enduring with dignity, or holding on to faith. In the ruins of your plans, he says, you may find the beginning of your mission, a calling born from your deepest wound. Marcus Aurelius too knew pain intimately, not just in battle, but in watching his children die, facing betrayal, enduring illness. Yet he never sought meaning in the suffering itself. To him, pain was an expected part of nature, like rain or death. The goal was not to understand it, but to remain undisturbed by it. If it is endurable, endure it. If not, it will soon end. Marcus didn't look for a why. He looked for how to remain virtuous in the face of suffering. He focused on what was within his control, his reason, his choices, his composure. That was enough. The difference here is subtle but vital. Frankl asks you to look into pain and ask what it's demanding of you. Marcus tells you to feel the pain, accept it, and not let it control who you are. Both believe in inner strength. But one draws strength from meaning, and the other from detachment. One seeks to transform pain. The other seeks to neutralize it. In moments of collapse, your soul will likely reach for one of these truths. Which one depends on who you are and who you choose to become. In today's world, silence is almost extinct. We drown in notifications, endless scrolling, shallow entertainment, and constant pressure to stay productive. But underneath the noise is a more dangerous enemy, numbness. We don't feel pain clearly anymore as we dilute it with distractions. The existential crisis is no longer a dramatic scream into the void, but a quiet whisper under the weight of 1,000 small tasks. And that numbness breeds something even more devastating, apathy. When everything demands our attention, nothing truly moves us. We no longer live, we react. Frankl warned about this trap. He believed that many modern people unconsciously avoid asking life's deeper questions because they fear the answers. He called it the Sunday neurosis, the anxiety that rises when the weekend finally gives you space to reflect, and you realize how empty your life feels. To Frankl, this was not a sign of failure, but a call to wake up. Meaning can only emerge in reflection, and reflection requires discomfort. It requires facing your boredom, your grief, your confusion. without running away. Only then can the soul begin to ask, what is truly worth suffering for? Marcus Aurelius might have lived centuries ago, but his world was not so different in essence. Surrounded by flattery, war, politics, and disease, he too was bombarded with distraction. His solution was radical in its simplicity. Write, think, strip away. Every night he returned to his journal, not to record events but to confront himself. You must build your life action by action, he wrote, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as it can. For Marcus, the enemy was not chaos, it was the illusion of control. He practiced clarity through repetition. For every problem he returned to what he could control, his response, his judgment, his virtue. This is where Frankl and Marcus meet again. Both believe that the answers you seek do not come from the outside world. They are buried within, but must be uncovered with intention. Frankl asks you to sit with your discomfort and listen to what it reveals. Marcus invites you to clear away the noise until only truth remains. Both call you to pause, to slow down, to stop performing and start perceiving. Because without that stillness, the question, what does my life mean, will always be drowned out by the endless hum of distraction. In today's world, silence is almost extinct. We drown in notifications, endless scrolling, shallow entertainment, and constant pressure to stay productive. But underneath the noise is a more dangerous enemy: numbness. We don't feel pain clearly anymore, we dilute it with distractions. The existential crisis is no longer a dramatic scream into the void, but a quiet whisper under the weight of 1,000 small tasks. And that numbness breeds something even more devastating: apathy. When everything demands our attention, nothing truly moves us. We no longer live, we react. Frankl warned about this trap. He believed that many modern people unconsciously avoid asking life's deeper questions because they fear the answers. He called it the Sunday neurosis, the anxiety that rises when the weekend finally gives you space to reflect, and you realize how empty your life feels. To Frankl, this was not a sign of failure, but a call to wake up. Meaning can only emerge in reflection, and reflection requires discomfort. It requires facing your boredom, your grief, your confusion, without running away. Only then can the soul begin to ask, what is truly worth suffering for? Marcus Aurelius might have lived centuries ago, but his world was not so different in essence. Surrounded by flattery, war, politics, and disease, he too was bombarded with distraction. His solution was radical in its simplicity. Write, think, strip away. Every night he returned to his journal, not to record events but to confront himself. You must build your life action by action, he wrote, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as it can. For Marcus, the enemy was not chaos, it was the illusion of control. He practiced clarity through repetition. For every problem he returned to what he could control, his response, his judgment, his virtue. This is where Frankl and Marcus meet again. Both believe that the answers you seek do not come from the outside world. They are buried within, but must be uncovered with intention. Frankl asks you to sit with your discomfort and listen to what it reveals. Marcus invites you to clear away the noise until only truth remains. Both call you to pause, to slow down, to stop performing and start perceiving. Because without that stillness, the question, what does my life mean, will always be drowned out by the endless hum of distraction. Time is a silent teacher, and a merciless one. You can ignore it, try to outrun it, or distract yourself from it, but it keeps moving. In moments of crisis, when life no longer makes sense, the ticking of time becomes louder. You realize how much you've wasted, how much of your life was spent on things that didn't matter. That awareness can be crushing, or it can be clarifying. It forces the question, if time is slipping away, what am I doing with the time I have left? Viktor Frankl believed that our awareness of death was not a curse, it was a gift. It made life urgent, real, precious. He taught that because our time is limited, we are called to use it with intention. He often spoke of how people in the camps found dignity, even in small moments, sharing a crust of bread, whispering encouragement, looking at the sky one last time. Meaning for Frankl didn't require decades. It could be born in a moment. If that moment was lived with courage and authenticity, he didn't fear death, he feared a life unlived, and in that fear he found resolve. Marcus Aurelius meditated on death daily. He believed that remembering your mortality was the ultimate tool for clarity. You could leave life right now, he wrote. Let that determine what you do and say and think. For Marcus, the shortness of life was not something to mourn. It was the reason to live simply, humbly and justly. He didn't chase legacy or emotional highs. He didn't fear being forgotten. He focused only on today, on this breath, this action, this moment of self-control. His sense of purpose wasn't drawn from what he could achieve before death, but how he could maintain virtue despite death. Here, Frankl and Marcus find a rare harmony. Both agree that the awareness of death sharpens our priorities, but Frankl transforms that awareness into a search for personal mission. Marcus distills it into calm detachment. One sees death as a spotlight on your calling. The other sees it as a reminder to stop clinging. One pushes you to ask what legacy your suffering will leave. The other tells you to release the need for legacy altogether. Both strip away illusions, but what they build in their place couldn't be more different. When your life no longer makes sense, you don't need more noise, you need direction. That's where Frankl and Marcus offer you two lanterns in the dark. Frankl says, search, ask, take responsibility. He invites you into the tension, into the discomfort of questioning everything, because he believes something sacred waits on the other side. He wants you to engage with your suffering, not to glorify it, but to transform it. For him, the crisis is not a detour, it is the doorway. The very moment you feel most lost may be the exact place your calling begins to emerge. Marcus Aurelius, however, offers you stillness. He tells you, strip away the noise, return to what you control, focus on duty. He doesn't ask you to find a higher purpose. He asks you to be present, to live rightly regardless of how you feel. His approach is grounded, sober, and immediate. No grand vision required, just the next right action. The Stoic doesn't need to feel inspired to do what is good. He does it because that is who he has trained himself to be. That discipline becomes his compass when meaning fades. So which do you need more right now, bias, reflection or resolve? Frankl will ask you to listen to your pain and pull meaning from it like gold from rock. Marcus will ask you to silence the chaos and root yourself in steady action. Both are acts of courage. Both lead to healing, just in different directions. And maybe, just maybe, the truth is that we need both. Sometimes you'll need Frankl's fire to reignite your soul. Other times you'll need Marcus's ice to quiet the storm inside. The road back to meaning isn't a straight line. It's a rhythm, a movement between surrender and structure, between the weight of your calling and the simplicity of your breath. When life loses meaning, don't panic. Slow down, reflect, act, and remember, you are not the first to walk through this. Frankl and Aurelius walked before you. Their words remain, and not to give you all the answers, but to guide you back to the questions that matter most. When the world grows quiet and nothing seems to make sense, you face a decision: shrink into despair or rise with new eyes. Viktor Frankl and Marcus Aurelius do not offer comfort, they offer challenge. Frankl calls you to find the meaning buried beneath your pain. Marcus calls you to act with integrity, even when meaning feels far away. One asks, what is life demanding of you? The other replies, just do what is right. Now, both understand suffering. Both believed in the power of the soul to endure, to rise, and to choose. So when your path feels broken, don't wait for clarity. Choose responsibility, choose virtue, choose presence, and in time, meaning will return. If this video brought you clarity or courage, subscribe to Purpose Through Pain for more reflections on how suffering shapes us. Leave a comment below. Are you more drawn to Frankl's search for meaning or Marcus's disciplined endurance? And share this with someone who's silently struggling. They may need these voices today.